Hey folks, Annie650S here, welcome back to the channel. While my car is being fixed at Silverstone, nothing major, just MOT and a couple of little bits that needed doing when I bought the car, I have managed to blag myself an Emira, which is right there, you can see it. It is absolutely stunning, I'm not gonna lie, but I figured I would do a review on it because why the hell not? So let's go and have a look around. Now this is Lotus's competition essentially to the 718 Cayman GT4. This particular colour is dark verdant green. It's a first edition Lotus Emira, so it's got every single option ticked pretty much. 400 horsepower, 3.5 litre V6 mid-engine again, rear wheel drive, 420 Newton meters of torque. 0 to 60 in about 4.2 seconds officially, and it will do about 180 mile an hour, but realistically you're probably not going to do that on the road. I genuinely think this car is really, really beautiful. I have to say, when it first got released, I really didn't like it at all. I didn't like the styling of it at all. I don't really know why, but it's grown on me like BMW used to. It does weigh 1.5 tons, which is really, really heavy for a Lotus. So it'll be interesting to see what it's actually like to drive and whether you feel that weight. I just wanted to point out a couple of styling bits on this car that are taken from the Evija. So you've got the vents there, and then also you've got the vents here, as well as this bit comes out the back again. So the Evija, it goes all the way through, and you can literally put your hands around the car and kind of touch them from that first bit to this bit here. The Emira is slightly different, but again, in terms of aerodynamics and airflow, they've taken a lot of the same themes from the Evija and put it into this car. The other thing as well that I wanted to point out was this really cool key. So if you have a look at the key, and then on the side, it's got for the drivers. I love how they've actually embraced this whole slogan. This is obviously a Geely thing because they didn't have it before, I don't believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it seems to be since Geely have taken over, they've kind of embraced this whole for the drivers thing. Right, let's have a look inside. So press the button, kind of like an Aston. So first thing is these seats, which are absolutely awesome. I really love that. This particular one is black Alcantara, bit of leather and some yellow stitching, which I think really sets it off nicely actually. They're really nice seats. Then we've also got, before I shut the door, you should see their KEF speakers. These are incredible. Like, there is literally no point in me trying to prove this to you, because it just won't make the sound as good as it does, to be honest. Sounds nice when you shut the door. So we've got start stop button here. This is really cool actually. Little cubby hole there. Cup holders, a Lotus with a usable cup holder. Craziness. And then a cigarette lighter, which I can't really show you, is down there. If you're looking for it. It's taken me a week and a half to find that, so yeah. So we have a glove box, which is incredible for a Lotus because most of them don't have it. Sorry about the light, it's really sunny here today and I can't get out the sun, annoyingly. Tried. Gear stick. What you also have in here is this exposed gear linkage, so a bit like the Exige, a bit like my Exige, it's kind of exposed. Then got play, pause buttons, volume, aircon, screen. This thing's really good, it clears really quickly. And then you've got the 3 driving modes, which I'll go through in a bit more detail later. You've then got this really nice screen inside, which has all the Android Auto, Apple whatever it is, Apple CarPlay, that's it. It's got a few bits on it. If I then put it into reverse, you've got this really nice camera. And again, this is something you don't normally get on Lotuses. I think this is the first Lotus I've been in that has this camera. I'd imagine the new 4x4 one does, but yeah, this is the first Lotus I've been in that actually has a camera, and a bloody decent one at that. Okay, so then we've got parking brake down there and boot opening there. So to open the boot, it's a faff. You have to press it for a really long time. So if I press it, now the boot's open, it's only just open. Okay, let's have a look in the boot. Nice hydraulic thing to go up. To be honest, it's actually kind of similar to the Evija. Maybe a bit bigger, I'd say, possibly. Do a quick start up video for you. other than that, let's go and have a little drive of it and see what it's like. Okay, so first impressions. It feels like an Evora. It's obviously not as raw as the Exige or the Elise. It's, you know, it's the sort of car that you can cruise around in every day, and it's a nice place to be. You know, the Alcantara steering wheel's massive. Like, it feels huge, this steering wheel. The gearbox is nice and smooth. Everything feels kind of light. It handles well. It's still very much a Lotus, and it's still very much, you literally just, you know, you think about where you want to go and it goes. And that supercharger whine. Oh, I love the supercharger whine. But, you know, the Evora, you had valves that you could open and it would just make loads and loads and loads of noise, and you could just be bombing about 50 and it sounded like an aeroplane was coming to land in your car. Like, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, it is. It's like the Evora grew up, settled down, got married, had kids, and didn't let itself go, but just wasn't the same person it used to be in its mid-20s. I don't know. You could definitely daily it. I would more than happily drive this about every day. Easy to heel and tow though, which is nice. Hey, so I am 3 days, I think, into my time with this car. And I wanted to just provide a little update on where I'm at. Right, so if we start with things I don't like. Firstly, don't get me wrong, the exhaust sounds good, but it's like this muted version of the Evora and the other, you know, the Exige V6. It sounds nice, it's got a bit of crackle and, you know, a bit of a bang to it, but I don't know, it's not the same, okay? Other things I don't like are lack of keyless entry. That's one thing for me. The Exige obviously hasn't got keyless entry because it's a flat out track car, but on a day-to-day basis this is kind of getting tedious having to remember to unlock it, especially when it's not a proper key. I kind of don't really understand why they didn't put keyless entry on these. Other thing is, no, I think that's it actually. The only thing I would say is the gear stick position is kind of a bit inconvenient. I quite like it because I'm short, but if you're a bit taller, I can see how it would be difficult for people because you kind of bash your arm against the seat every time you want to pull the gear stick back. But again, I'm a midget, so I'm not too bothered about that. Things I love, I have to say, sound system is absolutely fantastic. It's got a KEF sound system. It's brilliant, like really brilliant. The Android Auto, it's got Apple Play and Android Auto works brilliantly. You know, no complaints about that whatsoever. It actually is a really lovely car to just cruise along in. I bought the RS5 because I wanted something that I would just want to cruise along in and not drive like a knob everywhere. This kind of does that. Like, I don't feel like I need to bomb around everywhere in it. But then you get to a really nice twisty B road and then you've got the Lotus steering, and I have to say, it does feel like a Lotus. It's got 3 different driving modes. So you've got touring, which is what I'm in now. It's kind of quiet, you know, no frills. It's just a normal car, to be honest. You've then got sport, and what sport does is give you a little bit more poke from the powertrain. It makes the exhaust quite noisy, so you've got that kind of pop and bang, you know, the crackle that I was talking about a minute ago. And then you've got track, which then takes the stability back, so it kind of reduces the traction control, gives you all of the power immediately, and all of the exhaust noise pretty much. So it doesn't change any of the suspension or anything like that, but you know, it's all right. It's one of those cars that you could drive to a track, thrash the absolute crap out of it for a day, have an absolute blast, really enjoy yourself, and then drive home again. It's great. I find it really sad actually though that they are going down the EV route and that we're not going to have any petrol engines from there again, because one thing they do so well is that, you know, Toyota V6 noise that they managed to get out of the Evora and the Exige. And again, this car, it sounds lovely, you know, it really is just, I don't know, it's a lovely place to be. And I'm still not entirely on board with the EV thing yet. I feel, you know, Lotus for me has always been fun, you know, the kind of, not everyman sports car, but you know, you can get into it, it's not completely out of everyone's price range. You know, an Elise, for example, an S2 Elise, when I bought mine, it was 16 grand. And it looks like a 60 grand car. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm saddened by the way that Lotus are going. However, I think this car is a really good end to the petrol engine era at Lotus. I just wish there were going to be more. And I wish there was going to be an Exige replacement, to be honest, or more Exiges. But then having said that, you know, mine's going to go up in value because then you won't be able to get them anymore. So I can't complain too much. It's just sad. It's just, I don't know, it makes me sad, really. But yeah, no, I've got to say I'm falling in love with this car, I think. I don't really want to give it back, if I'm honest. Okay, so I've had the Lotus for about a week and a half now, and I've done a fair few miles in it. I don't know exactly how many because I don't know how many miles it had when I actually picked it up, but I've done quite a few miles in it. So my final review is today. I've got to give the car back tomorrow, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually really sad about giving it back because I have sort of fallen in love with it a bit. You know, it's the sort of car that if I owned this and the RS5 would not even get a look in. I'd come out every morning and I'd get straight into this because it is so good to drive. It drives like a Lotus. When they first came out, I was really negative about the car, a bit like I was with the Tesla. I was like, it's not a real Lotus, it's not, you know, Lotus pedigree, it's heavy, like I didn't really like the look of it. I didn't think it looked aggressive enough to be a newer Lotus. I was really vocal about it. I went to the Silverstone Lotus unveiling and I was really, like, when they'd unveiled it, I was like, well, this is a waste of my time, it's horrible, sort of thing. I was really negative about it. Having driven one for a week and a half, I could definitely see myself in one forever as a daily. Would I swap the Exige for it? Absolutely not. It's a completely different car. Would I buy this over a Cayman? Definitely. I have driven a Cayman, so I know what they drive like. I would 100% go with this. Because Lotus almost, it ruins you for other cars. It really does. And other brands. You tend to find that's why people go from Lotus to McLaren, which is what I did before I went back to Lotus. But it's because there's just something about the drive that you can't beat it, and you can't get it anywhere else really. You know, it's not as raw as the Exiges or the Elise. It's quite, I don't know, like it's very similar to driving the Evora actually. The Evora I thought was an absolutely fantastic car, and I loved that car to bits. And I used to just drive it absolutely everywhere. I put loads of miles on it, owned it for about 6 months, and I put about 20,000 miles on it. And it was just a fantastic car. If this was my only car, I would 100% go with this. Would I swap the RS5 for it? Is the question that I've been trying to work out all week. Okay, so if it was my only car and I didn't have the Exige, yes, 100%, because again, you get the kind of luxury, you get this nice screen, the heater works, you know, the whole thing just works like it should work when you're driving it. You know, the controls are convenient, all those sorts of things. But you can then get to some nice twisty B roads and really enjoy the car. Would I swap the RS5 for it with the Exige in my possession, or while I've got a second car? And the answer, honestly, is no. And the reason being is it's just little niggles that I've got with this car, right? So the keyless entry, and I know I'm spoiled. I know I'm spoiled with the RS5. Okay, I've essentially been taught to be lazy, but the RS5 has keyless entry. This doesn't have keyless entry. It has keyless start, but not keyless entry. So I keep walking up to it and then having to remember to bloody unlock the thing, and it's driving me nuts. When you got loads of bags and stuff, and then you're like trying to unlock the car, it's just really frustrating. Also, the parking brake occasionally lets itself off and occasionally doesn't. So you don't really ever have any clue whether the parking brake is going to let itself off or not. So I keep pulling off, expecting it to let itself off because that's what the RS5 does, and it doesn't, and then I keep stalling it and looking like a twat. So that's annoying. And the final thing, the biggest thing really for me, and again, I know that I've been spoiled with the RS5, this just feels a bit underpowered. Feels like it almost needs an extra sort of 50 to 100 horsepower to be the right kind of power to weight, because it's a heavy car compared to other Lotuses. It just, yeah, I don't know, like it just feels like it needs a bit more grunt, and it's lacking on pickup certainly. When you get to the twisties, again, you don't buy Lotus because of that. When you get to the twisties, you completely forget about it. But yeah, it just feels like it could do with an extra bit of horsepower. Also, the other thing is the RS5 is auto, and it is kind of driving me nuts a bit having to drive a manual. I'd be really interested to drive the other versions of this car, i.e. the V6 auto and the AMG engine one, to see what the difference is. But yeah, I'm sorry, Lotus, but I'm not swapping the RS5 for this car. Again, I love it. I've really enjoyed my time with it. I've really enjoyed driving it. But it's just, I don't know, the RS5 is just still a nicer place to be on a day-to-day basis. So I'm gonna have to get back into that tomorrow. Well, no, not tomorrow, because I'm picking the Exige up, and I'm probably gonna want to drive that every single day for the next week, because I haven't had it for a week and a half and I've really missed it. Would I buy one of these over an Evora? That's a really tough one, you know, because the Evora is such a great car, and also, you know, I know you've got to spend quite a bit more money to get into a 430, but you have got the extra power there. I think I still do prefer the Evora as a car. However, this is, again, it's a much nicer place to be. You know, again, it's got this really nice screen, things work, it doesn't feel cheaply put together, it feels really nicely put together. Really tough one, I'm not sure. I feel like I would buy them for different reasons. I'd buy each car for different reasons. So I've been honing a bit of an analogy with this car, and that is the Exige for me was like a teenager, early 20s, out partying all the time, completely irresponsible, bit of a dickhead. The Evora for me was sort of that mid-20s, when you start realising that you like the finer things in life, and you start wanting to do more, but you're still a bit of a twat, and you still like going out partying on the weekend. This is like the 40-year-old big brother who's settled down, had kids, got married, got a house, got a mortgage, but is still, you know, still likes a party occasionally. Fun factor on this car, I'm gonna go with an 8, because it drives like a Lotus, it feels like a Lotus, it reminds me a lot of the Evora, which was probably one of the most underrated cars ever, but it's still not, it's not a 10 because it's not Exige fun. The Exige and the Elise variants are just, you know, they're completely impractical, but you forego the practicality for just out and out having an absolute blast every time you get in that car. Whereas this is very grown up, so therefore you let go a bit of the fun factor. Practicality, I would say a 7. Obviously the RS5 is bigger, it's got a nice big boot, you can fit more in it. This is a 2-seater, this is very kind of Porsche type thing. Everything works on it. it's a really, really, really good daily if you don't need more than 2 seats and you don't need a big boot. If you're a single human who just enjoys cars, doesn't have dogs and children and things like that, again, it's perfect. But I can't give it a 10 because, well, I can't. It's not a 10. But yeah, so there we go. I've enjoyed my time again. I've absolutely loved this car to bits. But the RS5 is going to be staying for now. Sorry, Lotus. If anyone's wondering what a car should sound like, it's this. Oh, that will never get old. Ever. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know again if you've driven the newer ones. I don't know if they're out to drive yet, but if you have driven one, let me know what they're like and let me know what you think of the video, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great day.